Marfoogle TV going live in 3, 2. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam and K Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We've got a lot to go over. Let's get right into it. First off, we have Chinese and Japanese boats face. Let's get right into it. First off, we have Chinese and Japanese boats. And I'm an idiot, so don't worry about that. That's just me echoing in my own ear. Chinese and Japanese boats face off near disputed islands as the feud worsens. China and Japan's coast guards have given different accounts of a confrontation that occurred near a group of geopolitically sensitive islands in the East China Sea. Now, we've talked about these islands. Obviously, if you are geographically not familiar with Japan and Taiwan, they are not too far away. And Japan believes that if Taiwan is taken, that they will have a huge problem, especially China being right there. And China has had a habit of essentially controlling oceans and parts of the water that they do not actually control, including their neighbors. They believe that if they take Taiwan, that they will take them next. And that has been said on many occasions. China's Coast Guard said on Tuesday that a Japanese fishing boat had illegally entered the waters off of the Senkaku Islands, which Beijing calls the Diaoyu Islands, and claims that as Chinese territory. So again, this is a huge deal. Both Japan and China claim this one island. Senkaku in Japan, Diaoyu in China, despite their being administered by Japan. Japan's Coast Guard, meanwhile, said it intercepted and expelled 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships as they approached the fishing vessel. The confrontation comes as diplomatices? Is that what they... I swear they have AI write everything unless that is real. Between the two nations spiral after Japan's prime minister made controversial comments about Taiwan last month. That being that essentially, if Taiwan is taken, that they might militarily act. Now, we've talked about this over the month ad nauseum because China has essentially responded. They've gone back and forth. They've said these things. But I believe, it's actually more up in the air if the U.S. is going to do anything if Taiwan's taken, that it is if Japan's going to do something. Japan is completely changed right now. Of course, the former president, which was taken out by a homemade shoddy, Shinzo Abe, was trying to lead the country into essentially being not a self-defense country, but almost a passive-aggressive and aggressive country, much like they were before, but not to that point, right? Well, he ended up getting taken out. Within 2 weeks of him being taken out, his party won a lot of these different votes and different things that were going through, and now they are potentially even changing constitutions to be more of an aggressive country. They don't even have to do so already because they are already doing so. They are rolling through the Taiwan Strait with their boats. They're essentially joining in on a bunch of these drills that normally they would say, we don't want to piss anybody off. But his protege is that president that said all of those things. So it makes perfect sense that she is one who is going to support being militarily, active in this region. It says, while responding to a question in Parliament last month, of course, the Takachi, known to be a vocal critic of China and its activities, suggests that Tokyo could take military action when Beijing takes Taiwan. Again, China Coast Guard spokesperson Lu Dian said that the Chinese vessels on Tuesday approached and warned Japanese fishing boats that they had illegally entered the territorial waters of China's Diaoyu Dao. So they are literally going to an island that Japan administers right now, going outside the waters, calling up boats and saying, hey, you are in China's, territorial waters. This is what they did with the other islands that they made, gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking on this one. The islands that they created, that was what they did to planes and to boats that went through. And of course, there were many stories of the United States military going through and saying, we're just doing the freedom of information or the freedom of travel and navigation, whatever else. So we're just going to keep going. We're not going to stop and go around. But China claims those places, and they are serious about it. In fact, they've even put out a map this last year that essentially shows their territorial waters, and those territorial waters basically stomp on all of their neighbors, including the Philippines. So this is something that very well could spark a huge war between China and Japan in a second. I don't know where Japan is militarily now, especially after they totally reduced the amount of military they had after World War II. But over the last few years, they have been getting high tech and been buying a lot of stuff. So I don't know where that war would sit, but it definitely would be one that we would not want to see. All right, we're going to talk about this and so much more, so stick around. We're going to talk about Sarah Adams. Again, a lot of things are lining up right now in a very scary way. And this show, again, if you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. Turn it off if you easily get anxiety about things that are happening in the world. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about potential things that may happen. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We've got a lot to go over, so let's get into it. First, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so next story, let's talk about Xi courts Macron in a diplomatic effort to isolate Japan's premier.
Well, if you don't recall, the French president his last visit to China about 2.5 years ago was overshadowed by remarks that appear to put limits on his commitment to supporting Taiwan. A 3-day visit that kicks off Wednesday comes as a democratically ruled island claimed by Beijing is back in the spotlight, of course, as we keep talking. China has been seeking backup from France, one of 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, in its recent dispute with Japan over the Taiwan status. Beijing lashed out after the Prime Minister Sanai Takahashi last month suggested that a potential conflict over the island could pose an existential risk for Japan. So China's top diplomat Wang Yi used a Thursday call with Macron's diplomatic advisor Emmanuel Aubin to say that the two sides needed to support each other and condemn Takahashi's provocative remarks. So they are trying to basically use the French against Japan, which is rather interesting because you just saw over the last year, Japan try to get really close and in bed with NATO. And now you've got, China leveraging France, now not talking about NATO, but talking about the United Nations at the Security Council, one of 5 permanent members, meaning they have one of those, stronger positions at the Security Council. To pony up so that they can use them against Japan.
So we're seeing a lot of weird relationship spikes with different countries and a lot of leveraging against countries. We're going to talk about it tonight, but Germany apparently is saying that they are not talking to our military right now. So I don't quite understand that. I'll be frank when we get to that one. I'd love to hear some of your opinions on what's going on there. Once you hear what's going on, it's just, I guess it kind of sideswiped me. So again, Afghan national hit with federal charges of threatening Texas, taking unaliving bomb attack. This is a very interesting one too. So again, an Afghan national living in Texas faces a federal case after allegedly threatening to carry out an unalive weapon bombing out of a car or truck in a video posted to social media sites. It says Mohammed Dawood Al-Zokoze of Fort Worth said in a video posted on TikTok, X, and Facebook days before Thanksgiving that Americans and infidels must perish, and that he was going to use I don't even want to say this stuff because this stuff is like everything is flagged here. Device in his vehicle made with a yellow cooking oil flavored by the Taliban. Yeah, if you read this whole thing, you're going to be on a list. Like that's crazy. Okay, so first of all, whether this guy is completely legit or not, one thing I've just been thinking about is just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all of a sudden we're getting this terror aspect again. And we very well could have these attacks happen, but, from 10 years in this community and seeing a lot of things and then finding out different things about previous event, knowing a lot of crazy operations that have happened in the past. If you study history, you can see that, all of these world governments, it's not like they just constantly have a genius coming up with new plots and plans and playbooks that completely work. They use things that are proven to work, and that's why you see a lot of similarities in any kind of actual operation or CIA operation or Mossad or any of these other groups. You see things that are repeatedly done because they work, right? Many people believe that there is a playbook or two going on right now, and that is because it is based off of things that happened in World War II and World War I, right, and different events like that. So this is, to me, this is very it's very interesting to me that all of these terror aspect things are coming out right now, because we very well could be looking at something in the next couple weeks with these predictions. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and get this. So according to the Attorney General, they said that this Afghan national came to America during the previous administration, similar to the other one, right? And as alleged, explicitly stated that he came here in order to do harm to American citizens. So that, kind of goes back to this whole idea that supports what, a lot of people have been saying, which is people have been coming in preparation to perform acts against Americans, and they're the sleepers, if you want to call them that, or in whatever term you want to put on it, but from all different countries. In this case, a second one from Afghanistan, but under the same basic entry point last time with the previous administration, and this person explicitly said they came here to do this. So that's a long plan.
And they said that the November 23rd video call displayed a would-be angrily gesturing and speaking Dari, a language commonly spoken in Afghanistan, while interacting with at least two other males. So obviously, kind of hinting towards these two other males aren't exactly stopping him and go, whoa, that's crazy talk, buddy. Gosh, eat your bagel and chill out. So again, this is kind of odd. And just say that we take this at face value and all of these people are just coming out of the woodwork right now. It does go back to what we learned last year. In December of the last year, almost exactly a year ago, Sarah Adams went on the Sean Ryan show. Now, whether you look at her and go, well, she's an ex-spook and ex-CIA, which could mean that she's current CIA, and this is like a psyop or whatever. Whether you look at it like that, or if you believe what she's saying, she's pulling all this open source information and saying that they're planning and plotting a big event in the United States and in Europe. Either way, this is something where preppers go, even if it doesn't happen, that we would prepare for this kind of thing, that you would be vigilant. When you're out in public, you don't stop going out in public, you don't not go to that concert, but when you are at that concert, you be aware. Because you don't want to be the next statistic that's part of some sort of op, right? You don't want to be that headstone because you were part of something that was changing culture or changing the world, right? That's why we all prepare and we all look at this stuff and we actually take it with an ounce of seriousness at the same time as taking it with an ounce of salt. This is creepy. Isn't it weird for anybody that watches every night? Don't you think it's odd that this is all coming out right at the year kind of mark, right when she said this was all going to start happening? The National Guard event, the banning from all of these third world countries, all of the stuff that is going on down in the countries that all were part of that caravan mission coming through and right into our country. I mean, I find it absolutely nuts. All of this is adding up to what my bias already thought. So or confirmation bias thought. So I have to look at it and go, is this just my confirmation bias talking? Or is this something that is really happening? And I believe it is. Like, in my heart, I believe that this was a big, big plan and that this was something massive. But again, people can call me crazy and skeptics can say I'm an idiot. That's fine. With time will tell. And if it doesn't happen, I'm sure people will say, oh, look, it conveniently doesn't happen because they stopped it. I hope they stop it. Like I've said many times, I have kids and I do not want to be without power for 6, 8, 12 months. I don't want attacks in the street. I don't want people, perishing next to me. That's not what I want. Especially just to what? It's not like we're getting massive views because we're telling this. In fact, it's just slowly killing. It's killing us to do this. So, yeah. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy if you guys haven't already. We're completely independent. So we talk about what we want to, when we want to. Again, make sure to go check this out if you are in the market for a solar generator. This one I truly believe in. It is one of the toughest generators out there. It is one of the best made. It is made with a reinforced steel frame, good enough for the Army. This won the SBIR Phase 2 contract with the Army. That is, again, why they stopped selling them to the public. All of a sudden, one of our best affiliates, one of the things we believed in the most, they basically disappeared. People were waiting 7 months for them before that. Well, now there's a batch and these ship immediately. So if you want this, you don't have to wait 6, 5, 7 months for it. You can get it right away. But once that batch is gone, we don't know, when they will actually sell again. If the buy button is gone when you get there, that means that they are out. Again, go to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to go use the code Marfoogle. You'll save several $100s and you will help our channel out at the same time. It's modular, meaning you can just clip it to more batteries. You can go with 5 batteries, or you can quickly undo the clamps and leave with 1, take it to a work site, take it to a campsite. Again, it is absolutely awesome. It is built in heaters for when it is cold. That is awesome. Again, that means you're going to have efficient use and maximum battery life in extreme temperatures. So go and check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. All right. And then let's talk about unleashing ICE strike teams on Somalis in Minnesota after the National Guard event. So again, I think that there may be somebody else impregnated into these strike teams too. I think that there may be, this might even be a cover for, broader operations that are going on in the United States. But that's just my side crazy theory. Dex, do you want to talk about this and what is going on in Minnesota?
Right. So following everything that's going on in D.C., we now have strike teams made up of DHS agents and other federal officers are being deployed in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities region, according to sources. Around 100 officers across the U.S. have been deployed in a new crackdown, which comes after the president's clash with Governor Tim Walz. If you don't recall, or if you don't remember, they recently called out about $1 billion worth of fraud coming from that area, specifically from some of the immigrants there that were frauding the systems that were in place. And I actually think there's a lot more than that. At least that's what's been reported. But in addition to that, there obviously looks like they're probably cracking down with ICE strike teams in that area as well. So that is underway, sort of, I guess, as we speak, and will probably be growing in the coming days.
Yeah, this is very, very, very strange in my opinion. Now I know that there is a ton of stuff going on with obviously the folks that came in the last 4 years, but the actions and the reaction to it, I think most people could say that they didn't expect one of the main points, even though it causes all of this crazy, fighting and debating, that there would be so much action going on with, ICE and DHS doing all of this stuff, to get rid of people and to send them out of the country. The media has had a heyday with it, saying that it's about race, it's about this, it's about that. But I think it makes so much more common sense that right now, this is because in those past years, people were coming in as part of an operation, and that you had not in uniform soldiers coming in and they were setting up for something. They got intelligence that said that. They can't say it publicly, so this is the route that they take. It would just make more sense than why you would do this and why you would turn years of your presidency into an absolute shite show, just to kind of go with getting rid of all of these folks that came in. I don't know. It seems such a big response, and I understand it will help the country and a lot of things to actually have all chunks and chunks of people that just weren't here a few years ago. If they weren't here again, there would be a lot of helpful benefits to that. Even the people that don't think it's right that they're doing this, you have to understand there would be benefits. Housing market benefits, financial benefits. The country would benefit from it overall financially. Dex, go ahead.
I mean, look, even in this case in Minnesota, $1 billion of public funds. I mean, let's put that in perspective. That's $1 billion of the people who live in Minnesota's pocket, that came out of their pocket, their tax money, was frauded into programs that were meant to feed children, meant to assist the homeless, but instead, for about 5 years, were these companies running and billing the state for millions and millions of dollars in each of these companies for these social services that were never actually rendered. And of course, they're all in that same community, mostly in that community. They've already arrested about 86 people that have been charged. 59 have been convicted so far. And this is just in one particular case. What would happen if none of that was going on? What would happen if those programs weren't in place with no oversight, allowing the people that have come into our country and abused that system and taken the money away from the public? How much richer would the people of that city be if they had their money back, or that $1 billion was actually spent where it was meant to be spent, like feeding hungry children or something else?
Yeah, and my point with as far as like the beneficial things, like, yeah, it does make sense to do this, but I mean, and it is his last term, he can't do a third term, so he doesn't have to worry about getting, re-put into office again. But at the same time, this seems like such a bigger operation. And then you have one day, it goes, viral on social media that these people are chanting death to the USA. And then that night, and then that morning, Tom Homan is, saying that they're sending teams to Dearborn, Michigan, where that happened. It's just crazy. It is crazy, too, that we have public rallies chanting this kind of stuff in the United States. But, the protractors say, well, that's their beliefs and it's free speech. I believe so, too. But I would definitely keep an eye on the people saying that. That's kind of scary, considering where they are originally from and probably moved to quite recently. There are groups that essentially try to take as much of us out as possible. So, yeah, I'm trying to say this carefully because, yeah, it seems right now there are certain things, and the view that I have right now is, again, now getting a bunch of just absolute weird claims about it. Like the groups that are saying that stating that the Chinese government might be doing all of the stuff that we know that they are doing, like hacking us, stealing our stuff, all of this, that creates fear about China. That's BS. if there's U.S. government documents proving it, then it's a fact. It's not, an opinion. They are obviously and currently trying to screw us over and sabotage many things in different ways. But again, and it's very much a fact that they want to be number one, and they absolutely will not stop until they are, in every way. So, and then unless somebody puts a stop to it, which again, who knows what will happen here. And then Putin accuses Europeans of sabotaging peace efforts. So, Dex, I know what you thought when you first saw this. I mean, this is what we've talked about the whole time, that potentially they want a war, and any kind of peace efforts, there's always going to be something thrown in there that's not going to work. We knew this right when they put the peace plan out for Ukraine and Russia. Dex, do you want to talk about this?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, look, just the fact that they were just talking yesterday about preemptive strikes. I mean, come on. Like, they're trying to propose a peace deal. They're trying to get war to stop in Europe, but Europe's over there saying, well, we're going to preemptively strike Russia. That's got to be the new thing we should be thinking about. But look, President Vladimir Putin warned Europe on Tuesday that it would face a swift defeat if it went to war with Russia, and dismissed European proposals on Ukraine just before the Kremlin meeting with two of the U.S. of President Donald Trump's most powerful envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Trump has said he wants to end Europe's deadliest conflict since the World War II, but his efforts so far, including the summit with Putin in Alaska in August and meetings with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, have not yet brought peace. So a leaked set of 28 U.S. draft peace proposal emerged late last week, which we talked about. I think it got down to about 13 or 14 points that they were trying to negotiate. Then the European powers then came up with a counter proposal for peace and talks in Geneva. The United States and Ukraine said that they had created an updated and refined peace framework to end the war. Putin said on Tuesday that Europe had locked itself out of the peace talks, but was now seeking to undermine Trump's efforts by tabling proposals that it knew were unacceptable to Russia. So Putin says Europe is trying to block the peace. They are on the side of war, according to Putin. We can clearly see that these changes are aimed at only one thing: to block the entire peace process altogether, to make such demands which are absolutely unacceptable to Russia. If Europe suddenly wants to start a war with us and starts it, Putin said, then it would end so swiftly for Europe that there would be no one to negotiate with in Europe. So pretty strong position there.
Yeah, this is obviously, this is an opinion. So, but it just seems like it every time there's any kind of peace deal, it just, something sabotages it. Something happens, something doesn't work out. And there's just so many of them getting put on the table, it just gets old, And then Russia, ready for war with Europe, will target tankers of countries helping Ukraine. Again, they said President Vladimir Putin warned Europe on Tuesday that it would face swift defeat if it went to war with Russia, and dismissed European proposals on Ukraine just before a Kremlin meeting with two of the U.S. President Donald Trump's most powerful envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Again, meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have not yet brought peace. A leaked set of 28 U.S. draft peace proposals, 28, emerged last week, alarming Ukrainian and European officials who said it bowed to Moscow's main demands on NATO: Russian control of a fifth of Ukraine and restrictions on Ukraine's army. European powers then came up with a counterproposal for peace, and at talks in Geneva, the United States and Ukraine said that they had created an updated and refined piece of framework to end the war. It says, quote, they are on the side of war. It says, we can clearly see that all these changes are aimed at one thing: to block the entire peace process altogether. It's just, it's absolutely, it's very, very clear, that this is not going the way that people thought it was. Even last week, when I got a bunch of comments saying, oh, it's all over, see, it was going to be nothing. But I said I was not going to hold my breath. And again, that's what happened. Now, this is weird too. German Army chief says contact with the U.S. military cut off by Pentagon. Now, here's my just side thought. I think it's very, very apparent that the Pentagon has all of a sudden shifted a lot of things in and around the Pentagon. They booted all of the different news agencies if they wouldn't sign an agreement that basically, hey, you can't walk around the Pentagon freely anymore. You have to stay in a certain area, and you have to essentially get permission before you share certain things. You can't even hassle employees. You can't go looking for exclusives and things like this. And that day, this was last month, about only one news agency stayed. Now, since then, I guess a few of them have come back. But OAN, One News Nation or One America News or whatever, they were only news station that ended up staying and signing it at that point. So that was basically closing out the reporters for whatever's going on in the Pentagon. Then they just, within the next 5 days, they then clamped down on Congress spreading information or talking. And what was the thing with the Congress? I keep forgetting. How did they do that? They essentially said
they created one group to funnel all information for congressional requests out of the Pentagon. So instead of the congressional requests just going anywhere and everywhere throughout the Pentagon, they had to funnel now through one group.
And isn't it funny now we're seeing from the German army chief saying that normally they're on a text basis with their counterparts in the United States in the Pentagon. And now that's been completely cut off, there's no response. So Germany, I have seen some things, and I even made comments last year that I thought, who knows? They might actually not be quite on our side, right? Or they might have some spies embedded, or they might have some people in their government by their comments that might even be on the Chinese or Russian side, right? Well, now all of a sudden we're not telling them anything at a time when they're trying to keep leaks to a minimum. Dex, I mean, did you put that together? They're not talking to Germany. They're completely cutting off their counterparts over there. And this is in the same month that they're clearly doing everything they can to stop any kind of information from leaking. I thought it was extremely telling.
Well, yeah, and maybe this is the sort of the cold shoulder coming from the U.S. Towards these European countries that are going to continue to warmonger and try to break the peace deal or goad Putin into, continuing the war.
I don't know. I think that's obviously what the administration would say too, though. And I don't know. I always think that there's like a third answer, that there's. I guess I just feel like we're being lied to so much. I always try to think outside the box, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff, because something is not right. And I can't exactly put my thumb on it. And that's why we as a community have to really all look at this. And if what I just said is crazy, let me know. Tell me why that's crazy. Tell me what your opinion is down in the comments. Because I think that, 2 heads is better than one. 2,000 heads is most definitely better than one. So please help us figure this out, because I think if we are on a precipice of a war, that we need to be figuring out as much information as we can quickly. So again, it says in an interview conducted a few weeks before his promotion published by The Atlantic, the American magazine, on Monday, Freudling said that he had previously been able to exchange text messages with his U.S. opposite numbers day and night. But the channels had now been cut off, really cut off. Freudling said he had grown up near the U.S. base at Grafenwohr in southwest Germany, and he had regarded the American military presence as a symbol of the Western security order. However, he said he saw signs that this order was beginning to crumble, such as when the U.S. had failed to warn the Germans that it was halting arms delivery to Ukraine in July. Freudling said that he now had to rely on German diplomats in Washington, listen to this, where there is somebody who tries to find somebody in the Pentagon to keep up to date about his allies, the U.S.'s defense plans. So what he is stating there, that diplomats are going to the Pentagon or calling the Pentagon and going, hey, we don't know what's going on here. Can you fill us in? It's, we don't know what the heck is going on with this war or what's going on with this, and trying to chase people down and get answers. That does not show a lot of confidence for Germany. And we're not hearing this as of now. We're not hearing this from other countries. So are they worried that
Yeah.
if they talk to Germany, that Germany is going to tell Russia, or that there's somebody in there? Or are they just in general, with an abundance of caution, being paranoid about everything? And if that's what the case is, what are they planning that's so big that they do not want leaking out no matter what? Dex, go ahead.
I mean, or is this guy just, partnering up with the Atlantic? We know a lot about the Atlantic,
To make
and it's
the
a
president look
hit
bad?
piece to make the president in America look bad, because it's just one officer out of high ranking, but one out of Germany. I mean, look, our largest military base is sitting in Germany, so I kind of like roll my eyes if Germany says we can't talk to the American defense. What do you mean you can't talk? And we're not going to tell you our defense plans? Well, maybe we won't. You're not even part of Five Eyes. Why are we going to give you like our secret deal that may be going on right now? Like, know your place, sort of, right? That's kind of how I would look at this. If this one guy is kind of crying like, oh, I can't talk to my buddy anymore, maybe he lost the number, maybe they quit using Signal, I don't know. But it feels very much like it could easily be a hit piece, or it's what I said earlier. It's like our version of saying, you know what, you guys are supposed to be doing your own thing, go do your own thing right now, because you're not doing anything to bring about peace, so we're not going to support you.
See, and again, I think it is really good that me and you see differently on these things, because if I'm glad that, because if everybody sees things the same way, first of all, that's an echo chamber. But third, well, I don't even know if there's a first or second. But again, it's I love hearing your opinion too. And sometimes I wonder if both of us have confirmation bias. Like, I go too much towards the conspiracy side of it, and possibly that you may go the other way sometimes, and that we need to meet in the middle to figure out what the truth is, and to really get this nailed down. Because honestly, that sounds to me, again, like an administration talking point. Now, we have a big base there, but everything is compartmentalized in the military. So they may not know what's going on outside of their German base. I don't know. I still can't get past the fact that they're clamping down on the reporters, clamping down on the Congress. They're clamping down on the border. They're clamping down, and they're creating a system that can defend the U.S. They are now putting a chunk of our military down by Venezuela. They are now threatening Colombia out of nowhere, and they're locking down Panama. They're doing all this. I think that it highly shows that we are preparing for something massive. So I don't know. I think Germany also, maybe this is in response to, didn't Europe or UK or other European nations say that they were going to restrict the amount of satellite information that they gave us, or reduce it? What if Germany made a comment like that we're doing illegal things with these boats down in Venezuela? I don't know if there's comments like that, but I know UK, or one of them, basically said that they were going to restrict their information that they were going to give back to the U.S. because of our illegal operation in Venezuela. So maybe it's a response to that, right, Dex?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be, but I just like I really want to understand, like, what's his role, how important has he been, and
why is he
as
saying
it relates to the, and why is he saying it, right? Like, I mean, I understand his, a German army general and the inspector of the army since October of 2025. So, okay, so he's been in that role for what, 2 months now?
Well, and he's just talking, well, and this is just being talked about right now. He apparently did that before his promotion, so he's only been in this for 2 months. He did the interview with the Atlantic 2 months ago. Why did they interview this guy? And he just got promoted after this. So he does this Atlantic interview. Was something agreed upon? Like, hey, can you say this? And then, we'll help you with somebody we know to get you a promotion. Or did he get a promotion because he'll say whatever they want him to say? That kind of thing too. You wonder if that's the case too. Yeah, like why did they pick him to interview, and then why did he say that out loud?
And why does he think he needs to know our defense plans? I mean, like, sorry, like, it's need to know. Like, we're going to tell you what we think you need to know, not because you think you need to know it, right? It's
Well,
our plans.
are they
Would
telling us theirs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do they tell us everything? And I'm sure we carry a bigger stick, so we can probably get more out of them. I mean, we've been funding Europe forever, so but I don't mean to be an arrogant American when I say that, but it's sort of been that way for a long time. So I just kind of laugh when I hear somebody like this sort of, throw the toys down and start, a temper tantrum because I can't talk to somebody in the Pentagon. Like, okay, you've been in the job 2 months.
Well, and then what he was saying that he used to be day and night. When did this stop? Did right when he got into the office he was day? Maybe he's just annoying. Like maybe this guy's like the guy that nobody invites to Friday drinks, right? Maybe he was texting. He says day and night. Was he texting at 3 a.m. and be like, "Hey, what you up to? I'm just in the bath."
Exactly. And he's texting at him. So he's saying, I don't get the defense plans via text messages anymore. Like, we're going to send him our defense plans via text message.
Oh, we're just taking this guy out. He's in the public square. Oh, please delete this if you can. It's really important. And we don't want anybody that's possibly looking at all cell phone texts around the world to see this. Sweatin' Ministries, God bless Adam and Dex. Thank you for all you do. Hey, thank you, Sweatin' Ministries, and thank you so much for your support. Again, 17 months as a member. And then High Tech Computers LLC, thank you for 9 months as a member. Marf, Dex, Mods, and fam, good to see you all. Happy holidays. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, all of that. I just want to point out, I'm very specific with my holiday greetings. And then let's see here. Thank you so much again, Lola Cafe, as well, for supporting over on Marfoogle News. Appreciate that as well. Now we're going to talk about his retweet. The president retweeted something, and you're going to see it's pretty crazy. But I think a lot of his truth posts have been pretty crazy. So we'll talk about that here in a second. I do want to remind you guys to go check out EMP Shield, especially while the Black Friday sale is still going on. The Black Friday sale means that you get a huge 25% off, the biggest sale they've done in 4 years on all of their products. And again, you also get our grandfathered in $50 off discount with that. So that is something that is always going to combine. Again, go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. It is very easy to put this into your vehicles. Again, most bought are the vehicle ones because this is going to ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before an EMP or a CME from the sun can actually fry your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, generators, homes, satellite, Starlinks, modems, pretty much everything you can imagine that you want to keep running, they make one for. A lot of people think that they need a mechanic to put this in their vehicle. It is not that case. In fact, it takes less than 10 minutes and anybody can do it. And I mean anybody. It takes a few minutes, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground or part of your chassis, and then you're done. marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF. That's going to get you $50 off and up to 25% off. All right, and then the retweet. So this is pretty nuts. So the president last night promoted a post that guaranteed that Barack will face a military tribunal. Again, this is a verified truth post. This is what was actually on his account. There has been no claims within the last 24 hours that this was hacked. And people ask that because it is so crazy. He reposted Julie Donuts saying, when the director of national intelligence tells the public that Barack committed treason with and President Trump is your president, you can 100% know we will see his military tribunal. The wording there is kind of careful, though, Dex. What did you think when you saw that?
I just, there's so many people that have talked about these tribunals over the years, and it's like everybody wants to see it happen. And I just sort of like is he either trolling us all, or is he serious? And it's not his tweet. So that's the other thing. He's just reposting or promoting or whatever you do over there on Truth Social or whatever. But yeah. So I kind of got you know, on one hand, I wanted to laugh, and on the other hand, I wanted to say, what's he really doing? Is there any truth to this or not?
So the 17 crowd from years ago that all got knocked off of everything, they're going to see this and go, holy crap. At the same time, is he throwing them a bone? A big chunk of those people ended up helping him get into office. So, is this the occasional throw something out there that may verify things that they've been talking about? I don't know. But this is kind of crazy, and it gives him kind of, I guess, a air of space, because it is only a retweet. It's only him going, this person, he's posting it. But those comments, it's pretty direct. But it's also saying like, oh, what?
I mean, it's almost like, I would almost think it's impossible for him to even do it. Like, everybody's going to get their hopes up for this kind of stuff. And even if you think about it, like, kind of like I said the other day, if he had absolute proof that, say, China was behind something, he couldn't put it out just because they would be able to eat him up with conspiracy, right? I think it's the same thing here. Like, even if he had like all the evidence, as much as we'd want to see somebody held accountable for doing something wrong, it's going to be so divisive that it's probably not productive, and it's going to be so divisive that it would take decades to ever get anywhere, right? So it probably won't get anywhere because it just will become a mess. And I can't imagine it's ever going to really happen.
And by the way, too, this is one thing to think about as well. That thing that passed that basically says that the president can't get in trouble for certain things that they did in office, right? They confirmed that in one of the highest courts, right? Was that a Supreme Court thing where they said that
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that too. Unless he was doing some stuff, after he was president, I don't know. I'm sure most folks here believe.
I don't think that protects you from treason, though. I think that protects you from other criminal charges based on the actions you're doing that aren't treasonous.
Huh. And then
I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer.
Well, that would be pretty nuts. And then Donald also threatens attack on Colombia amid Venezuela war fears. So, it kind of came out of left field when it first was talked about how Colombia was kind of thrown into the mix. It was mainly about Venezuela when they were talking about the boats. Now he's got this huge presence of military down there as if we are going to go to war. And now they're throwing Colombia in this as well. And people in Colombia and Venezuela, a lot of the social media has essentially talked like they are speaking for both countries. Venezuelans have said, us in Venezuela, we're going to stand up. Us in Colombia are going to stand up against this, and we're not going to take it. I don't know how much of that is bot posts, and who knows, it could be AI videos at this point now that AI is so good. But they said, speaking at the White House, he said, if they come through a certain country, any country, and this is what I said over on Marfoogle News, I think it is so weird that he was saying like this. Speaking at the White House, he said, if they come through a certain country, any country, and then changes it up. I hear Colombia is making cocaine. Anybody doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack. Not subject to, bordering up or stop it. Like he's saying he can attack countries because they're making a drug and bringing it into the country. You would think you would say accuse the criminals that are doing it in that country and attack them. They're actually saying the country. Now, he says if they come through in a certain country, any country. This to me made it sound like they're using Colombia to come through as in like military from China or other countries not in uniform used Colombia as the baseboard to jump through the Darien Gap and through Ecuador and through Honduras and through Nicaragua and through all of these different places to go up to Mexico. And all of these places essentially have political strife right now. All of these places are mentioned right now. all of their neighbors. Anything below Colombia and Venezuela, that's not being talked about. We're not really, there's no beef with anybody below them. And these two countries, Colombia and Venezuela, everybody knows that folks from certain countries were going into Venezuela. Folks from other countries, I'll just show you the map here, were going into Colombia and even into Ecuador. So some went into Ecuador, some went into Colombia, and some went into Venezuela. If they came from up here, they would go into Venezuela and then through Colombia into Panama. And then just to remind you, Panama is where this Darien Gap is. That's where that whole thing is, where they're building a tank-wide column in the middle of the jungle, millions and millions of dollars in a tiny village that, I don't even know if they have cars in this place where the Darien Gap is. So what the hell is going on here? He's threatening an attack on the drug makers or whatever.
The amount of land where coca is grown in South American nation there in Colombia has expanded by 2/3 between 2018 and 2023. 253,000 hectares, roughly the size of Luxembourg. So my understanding from some other research I've looked at, the amount of cocaine, especially going to Europe, they have so much now that the traffickers are actually burying it underground because the prices are low and they're trying to manipulate their own market to get the prices back up because they have an oversupply.
Yeah,
and all of that comes from Colombia, by the way. I mean, they grow the majority of all the coca.
Yeah, Colombia cocaine. Yeah, everybody knows about that, and everybody has. So I guess they'll continue this massive war on drugs. I think it's just too convenient that the Russia, the connection, the Iran connection to Venezuela, the connection with Colombia and all of these other places that now are being chummy and doing all of these deals. I think it's very interesting. And then actually there are a couple countries outside of those. Brazil and Argentina have also been helping in ways. Brazil even is having that hospital ship. In fact, this next month, for about a couple weeks, a hospital ship from China is going to dock in Brazil in different places. And then you have Argentina and what was the other country that was essentially giving all of their soy to China, which basically allowed them not to buy any soy from America. Do you remember what the other country was? Argentina and another country that were...
I thought it was Brazil, but I could be...
I think it is.
Yeah.
So Brazil and Argentina now have essentially given their soy to China. Now China is buying none from the U.S. This is a big deal for U.S. GDP and for farmers. Here, all of the soy farmers, all of a sudden, one of their biggest buyers is not buying anything from us. I talked about this years and years ago before all of this went up, and it's specifically about soy, because Russia and China were switching land. They were essentially saying, hey, you can grow your soy in Russia and you can grow your Vestavits over in China if you have land that can grow it, and we'll trade instead of going through the U.S. I said that was the start of trying to decouple. And now that's exactly what's happening. Now they're going through other countries for all of these different things. And they're also doing this to other countries. With Japan, obviously the tensions that are going on right there, they're saying, hey, we're not going to import your fish anymore. We're not going to do this. They're decoupling from all of our allies. At the same time, they're either sabotaging or trying to infiltrate our allies, like South Korea. So I think it makes sense that something bigger in South America is going on, and a lot of these countries are also the same countries that are joining BRICS. And maybe they say, when the dust settles, we want to be on the winning side, and for some reason they think that that's going to be the other guys, right? I don't know. Real quick reminder. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I want to go back to the cocaine thing though. Just as an American, and I'm, long gone from the days of experimentation, but like, is cocaine even a thing here in America? Like, I always thought we've been declining on that for ages.
I
Like
don't know
the
any.
90s,
I
it
don't
was
know any
big,
rich
but
people. So
yeah, but that's, I mean, that's the thing. It's like haven't known a person that does that. And if it is, it's like rare. So I know Europe, it's really big. Obviously a lot of the statistics are coming out of Europe, but like, why is this it kind of goes back to the point that
I think it's used to
we keep
make
making.
crack though. So
Yeah,
somebody's
but
getting it. It's just up the chain.
yeah, but do we have a lot? Like, I think we have a lot more of the fent and the meth and other stuff than cocaine, and I think that, like, it feels obvious to me that they're just using it as an excuse to say we're doing regime change, and when it's really not about the coke. Because, like, how much coke is really flowing through? Maybe it's big in South Florida, but
Well, there were bags of it in the White House. So if you know the right people, there are. When I was in my mid 20s, I did that, all the sorts of stuff when I was in my 20s and in my teens, right? So I remembered anytime that it was happen, or you went to a bar, you had friends, or you went to the club or this, and people had it. It's like over a few years, and it was a short time. It was like it was somewhat good, and then it went worse and bad, and then it was just like there's barely any coca in it, right? So it was just not worth it to even try to get it either. Even if you had somebody reliable that knew how to get it, it's like the quality of it went so far down that nobody even wanted to, do you want a headache and just feel like crap for 4 days? No. So most people just stopped buying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I mean, you were just thinking back to my adult children when they were younger and in school. It's like there might have been one kid that was, the coke kid, but like, you could find a ton of kids that smoke pot, right? But it just wasn't as popular. It didn't seem to be. I'm not saying it's not here. It just doesn't feel like it was as popular as it was back in its heyday. And maybe again, it's just the rich person's drug.
I think it is. I think because to get what our idea of it was 20 or 30 years ago, I think that you have to have a ton of money. I think it's very expensive. But correct me if I'm wrong. And you don't have to say how but let us know. Like, does that still, can you still get that anymore? And don't give anybody instructions on how. All right. And then Sean Farmer 6042 says, I love cocoa. Well, is it something that is still around? Just curious. And then check out the Economist 2026 magazine cover. It's pretty trippy, says SMDIXO. So I did type in chat, but we did do an episode on it, and we went over basically our thoughts on it. Yeah, it's very, very creepy every year. We always do the Economist cover because it is creepy. Who runs the magazine? Who reads that magazine? A chunk of the family that everybody talks about owns that magazine. So it is something interesting to me because it always is pretty on point with how the next year goes. All right. Thank your mods. Thank Bobby Sue, especially. Thank you so much. And Bobby Sue was telling somebody was asking how Marfoogle came about. And it was a play off of Google, but it was like Marfoogle, the anti-Google. And also it was Google Marfoogle. It was just easy. It was rememberable, but that can be a bad thing as well. If you're trying to get somebody to do an interview and you say, I'm with Marfoogle, it's a goofy name. What's so funny is there's so many weird YouTuber names that like they typed in when they didn't think they were going to have a channel, and then it got bigger and they just kept the name, and everybody, I'm trying to think of one, but Jacksepticeye's or all these weird names that people have, or they have a name that just was so overused that it has 5, 6, 7, 8 at the end of it, and they've ended up keeping it, and it worked. People are able to type in Bill Billingsley X8554 or something. But yeah, that was purely it. And when I started this channel, I believed that there were there was only 4 or 5 people that were really doing it. And I didn't truly believe in any of them. And I really thought, like, you know, these people are not really telling the truth, or something's off with it. So I said, I'm going to do it. I started YouTube before I did this. I did videos for my family. I did videos warning about earthquakes on the West Coast for my West Coast family. And I did prepping tips that literally was unlisted and only for my family members to watch. So those videos are still unlisted or deleted. And some of them were I even had like a projector screen and did PowerPoint presentations on, you know, why they should prep, what stuff they should have, and everything else. So yeah, not a lot of people know that. Thank you guys for those of you that have been with me since I've been doing videos in my car, but actually the car videos were not my first. The car videos were because they were the only place I could do it. I got fired from one of my jobs because somebody knew that I did a video on my break and I said something political. And once they found out that I was on or leaning towards a certain side, they essentially, it's an at-will state. So they said, you can either take a minimum wage job demotion or you can leave. So I left. And some of you may remember that video because I was crying in my car and I was really not happy. But I then went to a job where I was working 11 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was there all the time. And that job, I again did videos anytime I could in the break room, in my car. And that's what you have to do if you're going to start your own YouTube. People say I don't have time to do it. I was working 24/7, and I mean it. I missed my 10-year-old now. I missed her first like 3 years. It's really sad, actually. I was never home, and she was always asleep, and by the time she woke up, I was gone again the next morning. But, you know, had to do what we had to do to pay the bills. Sean F. recently completed my degree in hydroponics. That's awesome, Sean. And honestly, there's so many different things that, you know, are going to be taken over by robots. I think one thing that will somewhat do well is the hydroponic areas, because you can also teach people how to garden. You can do other stuff. You can do setups for people and things like that. Regular people are always going to have gardens, and regular people can't afford some, you know, $40,000, $50,000 robot to do it for them. So I don't know. I think that's kind of a good degree to get. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And then thank you to the mods. I appreciate all of you. Make sure to go check them out over on marfooglenews.com/friends. If you go to the description down below, you'll find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that is there. And of course, you can also, of course, see any pictures or tweets that are there. It's all archived right there. It's also searchable up in the upper right-hand corner. You know, so Aaron Blake is the tweet here. Right, so, or actually, let me use this. German Army Chief. So if I type in German Army Chief, it's gonna, the top episode. So if you remember, if you're trying to find an article for something, the top result is this show. So Sabotage and Strike Teams, do not miss this. You click that, and then you can go down here. And if you're trying to share with a friend or family member a reason why they should get prepping or something that you've caught, boom, there's the link, and it brings you right to the original source. So very, very useful tool. You can use it even, again, use it if you're doing a YouTube channel. That you have basically a daily diary of all of the crazy news. All right, thank you guys. Love you. Thank you for supporting independent. Sean Farmer, again, appreciate it. SMDIXO, Sweating Ministries, thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.